You stop caring what people think when you finally understand this. Most people don't even know who they are, so why would their opinion define who you should be? People judge from their wounds, their insecurities, their failures, their projections. They speak from fear, not truth, from ego, not wisdom, from confusion, not clarity, and yet you bend your identity to fit their expectations, perform for their approval, shrink yourself to avoid their judgment, and live your life on a leash held by people who couldn't walk a mile in your mind. The world teaches you to stay small so you don't threaten anyone, to stay agreeable so you don't offend anyone, to stay predictable so no one questions you. And without realizing it, you trade your authenticity for acceptance, a cheap exchange that costs you everything. But the moment you stop explaining yourself, stop seeking validation, stop swallowing your truth just to stay liked, you become dangerous in the best way. Because a person who doesn't need external approval is someone no one can control. Let's break open the psychology behind why you care and how to cut the leash for good. You don't care what people think because you're weak. You care because at some point in your life, approval meant survival. You learned early that acceptance kept you safe, that fitting in prevented conflict, that being liked reduced the risk of rejection. So your brain built a habit: measure yourself through other people's reactions. This is why criticism stings more than it should. Why silence feels like rejection. Why someone's opinion can shake you even when you know it's nonsense. Your mind is still running an old script. Stay accepted or stay unsafe. But here's the truth you've avoided. Caring what people think is not an emotional issue. It's an identity issue. You care because you don't fully trust your own judgment. You care because you haven't built a self-image strong enough to stand without external approval. You care because your inner world is louder when someone else speaks than when you do. This is why other people's opinions have power. They fill the space where your internal certainty should be. And it runs deeper than you think. Caring what people think shows up in subtle ways. You shrink your tone to stay liked. You filter your truth to stay accepted. You avoid risks so no one can judge your failures. You let fear of embarrassment dictate your decisions. You play small to avoid threatening insecure people. It's not their judgment that hurts you. It's the fact that you secretly believe them. You gave strangers the authority you refuse to give yourself. And if you're trying to break this pattern, the fear of judgment, the need for approval, the identity built on external validation, remember to download the audiobook of Surviving the Toxic Bond. It breaks down the exact emotional mechanics behind self-worth, identity wounds, and why other people's opinions feel heavier than they should. If you prefer reading while you listen, the ebook pairs perfectly with it. Download link is in my bio. The real reason you care what people think is simple. You haven't built a self you're fully aligned with yet. Because when you're proud of who you are, the world's noise becomes irrelevant. People think caring about opinions is harmless, but it quietly rewrites your entire life. When you let other people's thoughts shape you, you stop living from identity and start living from fear. You don't choose your actions. You choose the reactions you hope to avoid. This is how their opinions start running your life. You hesitate. Every decision becomes a calculation of who might judge you. You censor yourself. You remove the parts of you they might not approve of, which means you never show up as your actual self. You chase approval. You work for applause instead of mastery. You perform instead of express. You try to impress instead of becoming someone impressive. You lose boundaries. You let people drain your time, energy, attention, peace, because saying no feels too uncomfortable. You mold yourself to fit people who don't even respect themselves. This is the cost of caring what people think. You abandon your identity to maintain their comfort. Worse, you stop hearing your own voice. Your instincts get drowned out by their opinions. Your standards get buried under their expectations. Your purpose gets lost under their noise. And here's the darkest part. Most of the people you're trying to impress aren't even paying attention. Most of the people you fear judgment from won't remember you tomorrow. And most of the people you want approval from can't even lead themselves. You let ghosts dictate your life. When you live for validation, you live as a projection, not a person. You become a character in other people's stories instead of the author of your own. And nothing destroys your power faster than letting external opinions override internal truth. Once you understand how much of your life you've surrendered to people who hold no weight in your destiny, you stop giving them influence they never earned. When their voices get loud, your identity gets quiet. And when your identity gets quiet, you start disappearing from your own life. That's the real consequence. Not embarrassment, not judgment, not criticism, self-loss. You stop caring what people think by building a life where their opinions mean nothing, not because you force yourself not to care, but because you outgrow the version of you that needed approval in the first place. Here's the blueprint. 1. Build internal standards. Stronger than external opinions. When you live by your own code, other people don't get a vote. Your standards become the judge of your actions, not their reactions. 2. Stop explaining yourself. Explanations are bids for understanding, and understanding is a subtle form of seeking approval. When you move in silence, you train your mind that your own clarity is enough. 3. Make peace with being misunderstood. Most people don't think deeply enough to understand themselves, so expecting them to understand you is delusion. Let them misread you. Let them invent their stories. Your life isn't happening in their mind. 4. Remove the audience from your decisions. Before you act, ask one question. Would I still choose this if nobody saw it? If the answer is yes, you're living authentically. If the answer is no, you're performing. 5. Build self-trust through action. You trust yourself by keeping your word to yourself. The more you follow through, the less space other people's opinions have to influence you. Self-trust kills insecurity at the root. 6. Stop seeking permission to be who you are. Everything you want to do, you're waiting for someone else to silently approve of it. Do it anyway. Be it anyway, live it anyway. People follow those who don't ask to be accepted. 7. Detach from outcome-based identity. When you're attached to how others receive you, you're still performing. When you're attached only to your character, you become untouchable. 8. Understand the truth. Nobody is thinking about you. That much people are too busy judging themselves. Your anxiety is based on an illusion, a spotlight that doesn't exist. Once you internalize this, the weight disappears. This is what it means to stop caring what people think, not arrogance, just clarity, not rebellion, just sovereignty, not ego, just identity. When you live aligned with who you are instead of who they want you to be, you become impossible to mold and impossible to control. This is how you become free, not by silencing the world, but by making your inner world louder than anything outside of it. If you're done living under the weight of other people's opinions, don't stop at awareness, sharpen your mind. Go deeper into the psychology behind identity, self-worth, emotional conditioning, and detachment. It's all broken down in the audiobook of Surviving the Toxic Bond. And if you want to study the concepts while you listen, the ebook pairs perfectly with it. The download link is in my bio. If this message hit with precision, sharpen the algorithm too. Like the video, drop a comment, subscribe, and share it so this mindset reaches the people still trapped in approval. Stand firm, stay sovereign, protect your peace.